Okay, I think we are live. Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. For those new here, my name's Nikki, and in this series of videos I talk about my language learning, and we've had 17 episodes in this series so far, and today is the final 18th episode. Not to say I'll never post another language learning related video, but certainly in terms of what I had planned for this series, I've now reached the end of the content I had in mind. So I might still do an end of year update again next year, or if something comes up during the year that occurs to me that might be fun to talk about, then I will. But essentially, this is the end of the series. As you can see from the banner just below here, we're talking about a bit of a review of my language learning in 2022, with going on to then say about my plans for 2023. So without any further ado, let's just talk 2022 first. Let's move back a bit. There we go. I don't get the glare so much from the computer screen in my glasses this way. So 2022, it's been a pretty good year overall, I'd say, for my languages. I mean, when I started doing this series of videos in 2021, which was about the middle of 2021, I just decided to really focus a lot more on my languages again. I'd not long taken up Japanese and Korean, and I was also thinking about my old languages, the ones I'd started learning, way back in high school, that I didn't really use as much as I used to. There's a few reasons for that. Partly moving to Australia, I didn't get to just nip across to France for the weekend anymore, things like that. Some of my pen pals over the years had dropped off, so I wasn't even actively using it as much in letter writing as I used to. And I was worried they were getting a little bit rusty. So I'd made the plan in sort of mid-2021 leading into 2022 that I was going to try and really pursue them all a lot more. And when I took up Chinese as well during this year, that put me into 9 languages that I was trying to work on. So the year started off pretty well, I would say. I had quite ambitious plans. I wanted to do every language every week, some of them multiple times, the ones I was really actively pursuing. And for the start of the year, that worked out fairly well. It wasn't 100%, but I was able to most weeks keep up with doing a little bit. And so, yeah, that it started off fine. I have felt a little bit like my energies started to lack in the last few months, probably from around September-ish onwards, August, September. It began to feel less fun and a bit more like a chore with some of the languages, not all of them, but the ones where I'm slightly more advanced and I was kind of looking for ways to practice, and I was insisting that I do, at least half an hour to an hour every week on them. And it began to weigh me down a little bit just towards the end of this year. So that is affecting what I've got planned for 2023. But essentially, I feel that it was quite a good year, 2022. I did keep up the momentum pretty well. I made some progress in my Korean and Japanese. Particularly recently, just in the last few months, I've started some italki conversation classes with community tutors for those two. And that's something I'm going to continue next year, because I think it's going to be really beneficial, because I can sit here and study the grammar on my own. But because I don't have any Japanese and Korean friends, I wasn't able to put what I was learning into practice. So it was just like I understood the grammar when I studied it, but I wasn't using it to remember it well. So same with vocab. So that's definitely something that I'm glad I started doing more this year and will pursue into the new year. And so I guess really I can say I've made some progress in my languages. I've gotten back in the habit of language studying on a more regular basis. And so I think 2022 has been a success, even though I think I need to adjust my methods a little bit in 2023 to avoid the burnout I've started to get towards the end of this year. So let's move along. So 2023 plans. So for this coming year, I want to do things a little bit differently. I think it's too ambitious for me to study 9 languages every week. I do only work part-time, but even so, I have the housework to do and other things as well. So I think it's just too much. I was putting too much pressure on myself. And if I put too much pressure on, then I lose the enjoyment and it feels like a chore, which I don't want, because for me, language learning, I'm not doing it for any particular reason. It's not for work. It's just for my own enjoyment. I love learning languages and I love learning about other cultures. And I'd like to keep pursuing that. And I just want to do it in a way that's going to be fun and motivational for me and not feel like a slog that I have to keep doing when I don't really feel like it. So I think my approach next year is going to be twofold. I want to be a little bit less rigid with how I'm organizing my time. And that might be a bit difficult for me, to be honest, because I am a planner. I have lists of lists of lists. So in some ways, it suits my mindset to schedule in times for things. But in the same vein, I think what I might do is schedule time for language learning, but to keep it scheduled just to, this is language learning time. But what I actually choose to do within that time is a bit more fluid than I've had it this year. And that means if I don't find something that I want to do for French that day, I could do German instead. And whereas this year I've said today is French day for half an hour here. And if there was nothing that interested me at the time, it was kind of like, well, what shall I do? Like, how shall I fill this hour? I've got to do something worthwhile. So I want to get away from that mindset. And I just want to say, yes, today I'll do some language study and I'll put aside 2 hours for language study during the day. But how I feel that will depend on my mood and if I've come across some videos I want to watch and things like that. So I want to be a little bit more fluid, a little bit more flexible. And I want to also focus more on certain languages over others in this coming year. And I think that's going to be helpful because there's some I really want to progress in. So if I move on to that, first of all, Korean and Japanese. This is going to be my principal focus for 2023. As I said, I've started italki lessons in both. I found some nice tutors, so I want to continue working with them in 2023. I'm also going to continue, hopefully, my Korean evening classes once a week I've been doing. I've got 2 more classes. I've got one tonight and another one next week. It finishes off this term, so which is 3-2. I've started 1-1, 1-2, 2-1, 2-2, 3-1, 3-2 I'm in now. So next year, my aim is to complete 4-1 in the first term, 4-2 in the second term, and then the last one they offer is a kind of intermediate conversation class. So I do that in term 3. So that's the plan if all goes well and I manage to get slots in the classes when the application's open and things. So and then I would finish all the courses that the KCC, the Korean Cultural Centre, has to offer by the end of next year. So Korean is absolutely going to be my top focus. I'm really enjoying Korean still. I really love the language. I'm still watching tons of K-drama. That's like 90% of my viewing is K-drama. So I'm really involved in the language at the moment. I'm really excited about it still. So I want that to be my principal focus. And at the moment, I'd say I'm at a sort of high beginner level, just pushing towards intermediate. And I want to get firmly into intermediate next year and feel that I can have a general conversation and I've got the vocab and I've got the grammar, and that's my aim. So Korean's the big focus, followed by Japanese. Now, apart from those conversation classes, I'm not doing any formal classes in Japanese. This is all self-learning. But again, I kind of want to move out of that. I'm still at that sort of high beginner level in Japanese too. And I'd like to try next year to push into a more sort of solid intermediate standing in it. So those 2 are going to be my principal focuses. As I've said, I've got the italki classes, the actual classes for Korean. And otherwise, I want to do a mix. I have YouTube channels that I follow that I want to keep watching their content. I want to try and do a lot more reading in the new year. And I'd also like to try to do a bit more writing. So I found a Japanese pen pal who I'm writing to, but I want to try and do some more journal entries on Journaly. I started Journaly. Actually, I didn't mention that in 2022 review, but I started the beginning of the year setting up a Journaly account. And my aim was to write something every week, alternating languages. And it started off well, but I got to about April, May, and then life just got really busy. And I kept saying, oh, I'll do one next week. And I don't think I've written anything since about May. So I'd like to try and get back into it. But I think trying to push all the languages is too much. And I think I'll concentrate on doing Korean and Japanese. And I'll try to write at least 1, ideally 2 per month for Korean and Japanese, just, a paragraph or so. So that's something that I've got on my goal in my plans for next year. So moving on from there, those two are going to be my principal focus. So those ones I'm definitely going to do every week, multiple times per week. I want to study those. Whenever I'm not at my day job, I want to do a little bit of Korean and Japanese each day. So that's sort of 3 or 4 times per week for each of them. Then I'm moving on to what I'm thinking of as my mid-level focus languages. So these are going to be Chinese, Danish, and Czech. So Chinese is very new to me still. I've only just started working on Duolingo with it. I feel like I'm going to be able to learn to read it reasonably fast. I'm finding the pronunciation very hard still. So that's something I want to try and boost in 2023. And Danish and Czech, they're both languages that I have at sort of a low intermediate level, I would say. And I'm working on Duolingo for both of those too. So I will continue to work on Duolingo, watch the YouTubers and podcasts that I follow for them. Chinese, I'll continue Duolingo. I'm actually nearly halfway through the Duolingo course already. So I want to finish that and then look at where to go next. I do have a textbook I bought that I haven't started yet. So I'll probably try and do that in conjunction. And I have a Chinese sister-in-law, so I've been too nervous about my bad pronunciation to speak to her much yet. But in the new year, I want to try to, when I see her, say a few things and try and work on my pronunciation and conversation a little bit as well. So those will be mid-level focus. So those I'll try and do. Chinese will probably be the more pronounced of each. I'll probably try and do that maybe 2 or 3 times a week. And Czech and Danish, I'll try and study a little bit once per week. Moving on then to what I'm going to call maintenance mode. So for next year, maintenance mode for French, German, and Italian. Now, my French, German are advanced. My Italian is high intermediate, definitely maybe pushing towards a lower advanced. These ones I'm not going to try and set aside particular study time for next year. I feel that I just want to keep them in maintenance. So I just want to maintain the level I'm at now. I have podcasts that I listen to for each of these that I've started to download on the Wi-Fi when I'm at home. And then when I'm on the bus and things, if I'm commuting or going somewhere, I'll play a few of them during the journey. So that's what I want to continue doing. I want to continue listening. So I'll be doing a little bit of listening for each every week. And I'll try and do it a little bit. I have pen pals in French and German. Not Italian at the moment. One friend on Slowly, but she only writes fairly intermittently. So I can do a little bit of reading and writing practice with letters for each of them during the year. And I'll also look at doing some sort of book reading for each of them during the year. But I'm not going to say every week I'll study them. I'll just be doing the podcast, doing a bit of reading and writing when I can, and just trying to maintain them and keep them ticking over. And so you might be adding up, and I mentioned 9 languages at the start, and I've now mentioned 8. So what's happening with the last one? And we're saying bye-bye Icelandic at the moment. I like Icelandic. I find it interesting, but I finished going through the Icelandic online course this year, but I don't feel it's been very helpful to me, to be honest. In some ways, it's a good course, but sorry, that's my stomach rumbling. Hopefully that didn't pick up on the video. I haven't had lunch, or I don't eat breakfast, and I haven't had lunch yet, and it's already 12. So I'm getting a bit hungry. After this, I shall eat. Anyway, the Icelandic online course. I find that when I'm sitting there doing the course and I'm doing the exercises, I'm getting them right, but there's no way to then use that knowledge and practice. So although I've been through the entire 4 levels of the course, I'm really no better off than I was at the start, I don't think, in terms of using, because I'm not using it. I did have 2 Icelandic pen pals, but they've had stuff come up in their lives and they've stopped writing. So I'm not using it at all. I watch an occasional Icelandic TV series and that's it. So I have no opportunity to practice easily. The resources for practicing Icelandic are not as numerous as other languages that I'm learning. I mean, Icelandic's not even on Duolingo, so I can't even go through a course on there. So finding the resources has been hard. Finding ways to practice has been hard. And I'm not really immersed in the language at the moment. As I said, the occasional TV series, and that's it. So I've decided to put it on the back burner for a while. I'm not going to say I'll never come back to it and never try and learn it again. But I think there are other things I want to focus on next year. So I'm not going to really try to do any Icelandic next year, unless I feel the mood take me to, and something comes up online that I see and that I want to have a look at a video or 2 here and there. then sure, I'll do that. But I'm not going to try to actively study it at all in 2023. So 2023. I can't even speak today. 2023. Too many 20s. So yes, that one's going to go on the back burner. So there'll be 8 that I'm working on, 3 in maintenance mode, 3 at a mid-level focus, and 2 as my principal focus. So that's the aim for next year. Hopefully it's all going to work out. So yeah, although this series is coming to an end, maybe I'll come back at the end of next year and see how this year went and whether my change in approach was beneficial, not beneficial, what I'm going to do for 2024. So I'll maybe come back and talk to you all again then. But for now, this is the end of this series. So thank you for joining me through it. Hope you found it fun. In terms of next year, I don't really have any YouTube content planned. You know, all the editing videos, writing videos, I kind of covered all the topics I could think of for that. I've finished all the topics I could think of for this. I stopped doing my reading and TV watching wrap-ups because hardly anyone was watching them, and it was a lot of effort for 2 views kind of thing. So I'm not going to continue with those again next year. So yeah, I don't have anything particular planned. I'll probably just post a video as and when, if something comes up, if I see an interesting tag or something comes up that I want to talk about. But I don't have any formal plan for YouTube content next year. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens as the year starts. So I'll end there for now. Thanks so much, as I said, for being with me. And I will see you at some point, I'm sure, in the new year. Bye for now, everyone.